Go ahead, George, you're live.
Well, welcome back, everybody, for another session of Throwback Thursdays. And I've got a great guest today. I'm so fortunate to meet him. Glenn is going to share with us his knowledge and love of the pocket watch. I don't know about the rest of you guys out there, but when I've come across pocket watches at an estate sale, it's sort of like, what am I looking at here? What is this? And Glenn's going to help us. So good morning, or good for you. Good afternoon, Glenn. You're coming from Germany.
Hi, how you doing? My name's Glenn Anderson. I currently reside in Germany. I have been collecting pocket watches for the past 30 years. Learned a lot, and George got in contact with me, so I thought I would inform you all about a little bit about pocket watches, just the basics.
Great. I'm going to do a screen share here.
And just for the viewers who are wondering who this child is, this is my son, Aaron. He is what I'm hoping the next generation pocket watch collector. Some of us are getting up in age, and I'm hoping that he shows interest, and I think he really enjoys the collecting part of it.
Great. Aaron, you're going to share a little bit of what you found at some flea markets later on in this podcast?
Yeah.
Great. Glenn, you have a website which I wanted to show the viewers.
I do. This is my personal hobby website over here in Germany. As a lot of people know, there's a lot of European watches that make it back to the States, but what people don't realize is a lot of American pocket watches have made it to Germany, but a lot of the Germans, they don't understand what the pocket watches from the States entail. Hence, I did the homepage to try and inform the people over here in Germany what's going on. It's in German. It should be. Oh, look, it's actually translated into English. That's kind of cool.
Google will let you translate.
Yeah, I forgot how slick Google is. There's not a lot of information, but it's basically letting the people know here. And I do get a lot of hits from people who don't have the knowledge of pocket watches, and they contact me per email, Facebook, asking questions. I probably have between 5 and 15 questions a week relating to pocket watches.
Well, you also introduced me to a database. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
So anybody who's collecting or sees a collection at an estate sale or at a flea market, this is probably the game changer in the pocket watch industry. This is pocketwatchdatabase.com, run by Nathan Moore. He's an outstanding person who's just devoted so much of his time, resources, and effort getting this homepage up and running. The first part of it's free, which basically means all pocket watches that are made in the United States will have a serial number on the movement, not on the case. It will be on the movement. And you can actually go in and put the serial number into this database along with the maker of the pocket watch, and it will give you fairly detailed information: when the watch was made, what grade the watch is. Grade is it a railroad grade, or is it a lower grade 7 joule? Railroad grades are usually up above 17 joules. It'll give you a lot of information. My biggest thing on pocket watch is you got to do your homework. And this homepage right here takes 85% of that homework out of the situation. It's just so easy to use.
Well, you mentioned something that I suspect I didn't know. One of the things I learned, people, when I see estate sales, 9 times out of 10, when people show a picture of the watch, they show the casing.
Right.
I learned, and you can explain this, the casing and the mechanism are two separate things.
Right.
So
So
the casing doesn't really tell us a lot, right?
no, absolutely not. What the case will tell you is it solid gold? If it's solid gold, it would say US assay, ASSAY, 14 karat, 18 karat, or something like that. Or it'll say 14 karat guaranteed 25 years. If it says something to that effect, 25 years, 20 years, 10 years, it's gold filled, gold plated, which means there's a piece of metal in the middle and they've just thrown gold on top and the bottom to make it shiny and gold looking. It was a money saving effort back in the day. To clarify, back in the day when pocket watches were sold, you would walk into your local jeweler. He would have a catalog or a book full of movements. You would pick out your movement. And then the next question would be, oh, by the way, what case do you want with that? So the movement was always sold separately from the case. To this day, it is okay to recase a pocket watch into another case. There's a lot of things that come into play when you do something like that. That's one of my pet peeves is a pocket watch has been recased and the case screws are in the wrong position. It tells me that that case was used on another movement, taken out, and another movement was placed in it. That's just an example.
Right. Well, while we're on the subject, how do we get to the movement? I mean, how do you open up these casings?
So I'm going to switch my video to a second camera.
Okay.
And as you see, I've got 4 watches. These 2 are from Aaron. He's going to explain those in a minute. And these 2 I just picked up today. I was actually going to do an unboxing here, but I thought, no, I wouldn't. So most pocket watches will be in a case such as this. And it's just a very, very simple unscrew the rear. Boom. And there's the movement. And all the information will be on that movement. There are other types of, I'm trying to thread this so I don't cross thread. You have to be very careful. I'm going to take Aaron's watch, and this is a Hampton from 1895. And this has a flip open rear, and I have a pocket watch knife. It's not really a knife. There are knives here. But this is just a little piece that goes into the slit in the back. I twist it a little bit, and then the rear dust cover will open to expose the movement. And all the information is on this movement, so I can tell exactly what's on the movement or get the serial number that I need for the information that I need about that pocket watch. To get a serial numbers, it takes no time at all. And Aaron's actually gotten really good at it at the flea markets. He knows exactly what to do.
Really? What do you
Yeah.
look for, Aaron? What do you look for when you're at a flea market?
The dial.
Yeah.
He basically looks to see if there's an American pocket watch. He's a little shy right now, but don't worry. He'll look to see. So all American pocket watches, well, 95% will have the name of the company written on the dial. So
Okay.
This is a Waltham 23 jeweled Vanguard that we found at the flea market. And it has a chip dial, which isn't very, it's not major. It's still a very, very nice watch for being a 23 jewel. This is a railroad grade pocket watch. And I can show that. I don't know how well that's going to show up.
Yeah, well, so you just unscrewed the back of the casing.
I just unscrew the back of the case.
Yeah.
Sadly, the crystal has fallen out of this one. That happens a lot. Pocket watch collectors are finicky when it comes to condition. Here's the glass. It just fell out. It didn't just fall out. It's actually been out, and I've got to replace it. So condition plays a huge role, but the biggest thing I can suggest to anybody, and I'm going to switch my video back. The biggest thing I can suggest to anybody who's really looking at pocket watches is look at the dial and see if it's a single sunk or a double sunk. Single sunk dials, let me go back. This would be a single sunk. So the main dial is separate from the second hand. That means the second hand was put on, there was a hole drilled and the second hand was soldered onto the dial. And this is a single sunk. A double sunk means, for example, this 926 from Hamilton, I have the outer ring, there's an inner display dial, and then there's the second dial. And the inner display dial with the name Hamilton is actually physically, it's attached with solder onto the hour dial, and the second dial is then soldered onto that dial, or this identification dial. And that makes this a double sunk dial. They're very, very fragile. They're all made of enamel or porcelain, as some people like to say. And they break and chip extremely easy.
So when I'm walking through a flea market or an estate sale, if you can summarize for us, what are the things that I would be looking for that tell me that I may have a good pocket watch?
Condition is everything.
Okay.
If I'm going to swap back just to try and do this. So I see a lot of pocket watches with the crown missing, but with a double sunk dial. Just because the case is in a bad condition doesn't necessarily mean that the movement is in a bad condition. Sometimes it's a poker game. This Waltham here, just because it said Waltham and I noticed the hands on, he noticed it, he found it. I just had to verify for him. But I knew because of the hands and the double sunk dial that this was a relatively high grade movement. And the second that we opened up the rear of the case, it said Vanguard 23 Jewel, and I offered the guy some money and he said yes, and we took it. And it was that simple. With estate sales, it's going to be a luck thing. And if you can get a batch of watches, let's say 10, 15, 50 watches for a really good price, just because they're looking to unload them, you could have some real gems inside your lot that you've just purchased. So it's always good. I take the risk. I think taking a risk is important. This is the biggest example of a risk. This is a box full of Hamilton 926 parts. These are 6 watches that I've tried to purchase and not one of them has worked, except for this one.
So condition, I would think, especially with an old watch, you said the
crown
crown might be missing, scratches on the crystal or the casing itself. They're not deal breakers. They're not.
It's not not at all.
Okay.
Because it's like a car. If you see a car that's full of rust but the motor's 454, you've got something special. And pocket watches, being a little older than a car, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. A lot of people don't like to buy broken watches. And if the watch is in pieces, don't waste your time. Fixing it will definitely cost you more than the value of the watch. The value of watches has gone up and down over the last couple of years. And I've noticed since COVID that it's actually been going up again. So if you get a chance to get a good pocket watch, I see it as an investment.
Well, it appears to me that I want to share a screen again. Share. When I was looking through this website, I saw buying guide.
Right.
My attention, and I see that there's some money.
There is
made here. Not all of them, but
you can't forget the value of the watch is pretty much as much as how much somebody's going to pay. I have a watch here that is a very, very rare 23 jeweled Hamilton 18 size, and it's called a 946. There were only 10,600 made of those. Immediately, I take off 50% because of it's 110 or 120-year-old watch. And 50% of those watches have either been destroyed, lost, broken, whatever, and they don't exist anymore.
Right.
So from that 10,600 watches, that puts us at 5,300 left on the planet. I have one here, which I hate touching, but I'm going to. This watch right here is an Elgin 343. It's got a beautiful, and just for all the watch experts, this is a Damaskini, the design on the rear of the watch. So in database, when I put this in the database, it says only 1,000 were produced. That's it. There are arguments that say only 768 of this movement were produced. We're still working on that. So anywhere between 768 and 1,000. Well, take off 50%, that's 500. And then take off the watches that are in drawers and in someone's collection, such as myself. There are very, very few of these watches left. Is the watch worth a lot to the right buyer? Yes, seriously. Because the 343, you mention it to any pocket watch guy, and like, you have a 343. Wow, that's kind of cool.
So the scarcity is.
The rarer the watch is, the better. I do a lot of my own work on my watches. And once again, I'll open it up here and pull this watch out. So this is a Hunter case, just for your viewers. And as you see, I open it. And this is an 1870 Cornell Watch Company, John Evans. I got this watch over here in Germany, and it was, I know the story of this, so it's actually kind of cool. The owner, his great-great-grandfather bought it in 1871, brought it back to Germany in 1873, used it through 1876, and then it sat in a drawer broken until I purchased it about a year and a half ago. And it was as black as my sweatshirt. It was, because it's pure silver. It's actually sterling silver. So it was absolutely horrendously dirty. I sat here at my desk and spent about 6 hours cleaning, disassembling, going through the whole watchmaker thing that I could, and put it back together, and it ticked. It took right off.
That's something I think most of us, you would recommend we take it to a jeweler or somebody.
I was just gonna say, I don't have access to a proper watchmaker here in Germany, so I've had to actually go learn things the hard way, really. And I have to do a lot of the stuff myself. I can't replace jewels. I can't do staffs, which is a balanced staff, or pivots. So I have to send my watches back to the States. I have a great watchmaker back in the States who takes care of me. Every time I send him a watch, he fixes it.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a lot of information, I know.
No, I think it's all great information. And I think you've taken a lot of the mystery out of it, at least for me you have, and I'm sure then for others of us who hunt through estate sales and flea markets. So Aaron, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been interested in watches?
Around 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And I've learned a lot in those 2 years about pocket watches.
You probably know more than most of us can ever hope to know. So I'm sure you have. You enjoy it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Good.
He made a statement the other day. Can you remember that statement that you said? Every second?
I think it was every second of every tick a watch does, we move further away
From humanity,
from old humanity.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really deep.
Wise, deep, yeah.
I loved what he said, because there's something about pocket watches. I mean, if you look at this 1895, that's pretty old.
Right.
And I have a cell phone like everybody else does. Well, I know that this cell phone in 2 years, maybe 3 years, will be non-existent. It'll be thrown in the garbage heap.
Right.
But To have something of this magnitude, of this age, is just, for me, absolutely amazing. I can sit here and listen to a watch tick basically 24 hours. I just think the mechanics that some company sat down and started with a raw material and ended up with a 21 joule bun special is absolutely phenomenal.
I agree. I think when you look at the mechanism, and it is pretty amazing. Whether it's a pocket watch to me or a grandfather clock, just watching that mechanism work is pretty amazing.
You can see the two clocks behind me. I have a I forget what the one on this side is, but this is a Seth Thomas. I actually have two Seth Thomas clocks that I purchased over here.
That one was a Waterbury.
Oh, a Waterbury English.
He knows.
See, he knows it. But I just love the ticking of the clocks, and I've had them not restored but fixed, just like my pocket watches. And
right.
These clocks, they're from 1890, and they tell me a story every tick.
I noticed on your website, and it took me a couple times looking at the website before I caught it, was the train behind the watches. Now there's sort of a connection between pocket watches and trains. Is that correct?
Correct. Back in the late 1800s, there was a tragic train wreck, and it was actually due to an engineer having a pocket watch that was set to the wrong time. And two trains collided, several people perished. And as far as I understand, I don't want to say the names, but I need to learn a little bit more about it. I just know the general story. It was brought to the attention of the U.S. government to have railroad grade pocket watches. And the official first commercially sold railroad grade pocket watch was a Waltham model 1870 key wind 15 joule pocket watch. And I actually owned one of these. Somebody offered me a deal that I couldn't pass on, so I had to take that deal. But that's pretty much how it started. Throughout the years, it's actually it got more stringent, strict. For example, the watch couldn't lose more than 4 seconds in a 24-hour period. These watches that were used on the railroad were constantly being checked by watchmakers to make sure that the parts were correct and the watch would work, because people's lives depended on these. And this went up to probably around 1910 or 1920, maybe a little later, when wrist watches started taking over. Actually, the first wrist watches were pocket watches that were transformed into wrist watches during World War I.
Wow.
And they were called trench watches. They would take small caliber ladies' movements, and they designed basically a wristband with a case. They would weld 2 parts on there so the band would hold on, and then they had their wristwatch.
Is there a way to tell if a pocket watch is railroad graded?
It's not railroad graded, it's railroad grade. So when I would actually have to get on to my computer to do this. Railroad grade pocket watches were 17 joule and above regularly. They would also have to be lever set. Let me do it with this one. So I'm going to turn on the other camera just for a split second so I can give you an idea. So this is my Hamilton. So a lever set in regular pocket watches, you have a stem set. So you would pull the crown up and you would turn it to set the time. A lever set right here at 2 o'clock, there's a little lever that I have to pull out, and that will set the time. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Try and get a little closer. That will set the time. So it's 6:23. I want to get the time right. So I push my lever back in. A lot of people make this mistake of forgetting the lever, and they'll crack the dial. This is not a railroad grade pocket watch, just because the rail system didn't accept it as a rail grade. They also need to be adjusted to temperature and isochrone. I can't say that word, iso something or other, along with different positions. This Illinois Bun Special states on the rear, and you can actually type this in if you want. And now it's going to be so small, I'm not going to be able to see it. It says adjusted to temp in 5 positions or 6 positions. I'm sorry. So it would be adjusted laying down, on its back, standing up, and then they would put it into a refrigerator or almost a freezer and try and make it freeze. It would have to keep its time. They went through a huge standard of making sure that pocket watches were up to the standard of railroad grade pocket watches. Naturally, railroad grade pocket watches are more expensive. A lot of collectors are after railroad grade. So 2 of these watches in front of me are railroad grade, whereas the other 2 are not.
Okay, so if I were to come to you and ask, do you know this watch is railroad grade? I guess it all comes down back to where we started with the serial number.
It would all come down to the serial number, correct?
Okay.
Just look up the serial number, and it actually states on Pocket Watch database that, yeah, let's do this. If you could go on to Pocket Watch database for a second. Oh, we've gone to full screen. I need to do this. Okay. I need to open something here, and we'll just to show the people, I'm going to give you a serial number, and you type it in to the main thing. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. It's 440 6439.
That's it.
And it will be in Illinois. Oh, it should have been, what was it?
440. 440
6439.
6439, and it's in Illinois.
Correct. You have to go to manufacturer and look for Illinois, and then click on that. And now all the data will show up about this watch. Sometimes it takes a second. If at all. Yeah, click again. There you go.
There we go. Aha. Whoa.
So you can see it's a Model 9 Bun Special. 169,000 were produced. It's a 16 size. Oh, this is a 21 jewel. And if you go down towards the bottom where it says railroad grade.
Oh, yeah, right there. Okay.
So it's adjusted to temperature in 6 positions. And this is all the other stuff is pretty much for the experts. But if you scrolled up just for a second, you can actually get the case screw locations down just a little bit. So it was made in 1923, down just a little more. There it is. So you have the dial feet location. That's for a lot of people. So when I got the watch, it had the wrong dial on it. And I actually have the correct dial here in front of me. And I replaced the dial so that the watch would have the correct dial on it.
Now, if I click on this, do I need to be a subscriber, or is that going to tell me what this watch is?
Oh, okay. That might actually want you to become a subscriber. So Nathan Moore, it used to be all free, but then his resources, well, didn't get tapped, but they got stretched. So he asks that all of us collectors, we pay our dues to this site because of the information that he actually does. I can highly advise, not only do you help out Nathan Moore and his team, but you're helping out the Pocket Watch database. There's so much information. You could literally start at knowing nothing, and just by this homepage, you would be more than advanced. All that stuff, the movement type plates, movement configurations. But I will give you a little tip. If you go to eBay and you type in Bun Special and you go to the sold items, that is one way to find out a general value of a pocket watch.
Right. Yeah, that's I guess a secret. I guess a lot of us know about it. I know my clients, most of them don't know that, they tell me something is selling on eBay for $1,000. Well, that's the asking price is 1,000.
Asking, right.
Yeah, you got to filter into the, on the left-hand side, you're right, sold, just to see ones that were sold. And we also subscribe to WorthPoint, which is a database of items. I think there's 52,000 different items on eBay that are on WorthPoint that have actually sold. So that's a good reference point for us.
Right.
Well, Glenn, wow. You've taken a lot of the mystery out of this. You've given us some great resources to look for. I'm not afraid to pick up a pocket watch anymore.
If I could just throw this in real quick,
please.
I'm the administrator, or one of the administrators, in a Facebook group called Vintage Pocket Watches.
Okay.
We are literally one of the largest pocket watch groups in Facebook with over 11,000 members. If somebody just had a question, come join our group and feel free to ask questions. And we'll be more than happy. We have so many qualified watch experts in this group, and that everybody's willing to help, and it costs nothing.
Share, stop share. Okay. I want to, what is the name of that?
Vintage Pocket Watches in Facebook.
Vintage Pocket Watches. And I'm going to look at groups. Vintage Pocket Watches there. There's Vintage Pocket Watches and Vintage Pocket Watches buy, sell, trade.
Nope, we are Vintage Pocket Watches.
Okay, let's take a look at that. And
you'll have to answer 3 questions. They're really simple.
Okay. Yep.
And then you get accepted.
Let me just go ahead and share that screen so that folks can see it. That's it right there, right?
That's it.
Okay. I'll have to join that group.
Please do. It would be great. And I think you would learn a lot from this group.
Okay.
All
right. So all you guys out there, Facebook, Vintage Pocket Watches group. And also, get this to where I can also AmericanPocketWatch.de, DE for Germany, and Google will translate that into English for you. And Glenn, any last words? I mean, this has been so great. I really appreciate you taking the time. Aaron, you too. Did you start school yet? How's the school year work in Germany? Is it similar?
No, it's different. He will start school next Monday.
Okay.
He's on Christmas break, if you want to go that route. But he'll start up next week.
Ready to get back to school?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Good. So Glenn, any parting words here?
Take a risk, save the pocket watch community. I'm absolutely addicted. That's my addiction, is pocket watches. And I try to save as many as I can. And I advise people to save as many. It's a great investment opportunity. I know that sounds strange, but it actually is an investment. And pocket watches never lose their value. They go up.
On that note, just quickly, the pocket watch market is if something is selling today, say for $100, whatever the cost might be, is that market pretty stable, or does it fluctuate?
It fluctuates a little bit. It's a supply and demand thing. If somebody's selling 5,000 7-jeweled pocket watches, they won't nearly be as expensive as if somebody was selling 5.
Right. Okay.
the higher the grade the pocket watch, the more value it's going to have. The rarer the pocket watch, the more value. There's all kinds of stuff I could get into, and I hope that possibly we have the opportunity to do a more detailed, because there's private labels that I can talk about. There's watchmakers who, for example, Cornell only existed 5 years, 1870 to 1876, theoretically.
Right.
And
Well, let's plan on that then. Let's plan on.
I
another
would love
session.
to. I would
Great.
love to.
Great.
Okay.
Again, Glenn, Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.